Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our weekly webinar series here at The Urban Developer. I'm Adam DeMarco, founder and chief executive, and I'll be your host for today's session. Now, for many of us, starting a business in Australia's property industry is the ultimate goal. But how do you make the jump from employee to entrepreneur? This morning, we'll be hearing from three inspiring businesses who have done just that. Joining us this morning are Tom Howgate. He's the managing director at Melbourne-based property development company Kincrest. We've got Claire O'Rourke and Rier Arai-Coupe, who are co-founders and partners of Bluebird. And we're also joined by Marcel Zalua. He's the co-founder and director of Valmont, based out of Sydney. Welcome to all of our panels this morning. Now, the format for this session really stemmed from an idea, or at least a thought to try and celebrate some of the positive things that are happening out there at the moment. As everybody knows, these are challenging times, and that doesn't mean that there aren't success stories hidden amongst some of the headline economic indicators and health factors that are making life, somewhat troubling for many at the moment. So what we wanted to do was really zoom in on success stories, and there are so many in our industry, and we've been following these three businesses for some time in various capacities, and we thought it'd be a great opportunity to basically dive in, unpack both the genesis of their businesses, how they're going right now, and what their visions are for the future. The format, as I mentioned, is 10-minute presentations each. So Tom will kick us off, and we'll hear about a fantastic project that he's developing in Melbourne, and as part of his Kincrest brand. We'll then have Claire and Rier present on Bluebird, their Brisbane-based development management advisory and project management firm, which is doing great things in southeast Queensland. And then we'll finish with Marcel, who'll present the very inspiring story of Valmont, and how he's grown that business into one hell of a business over the years. Now, as I said, each presenter will have 10 minutes, and then we'll jump into a Q&A as well. You'll have the opportunity to submit your questions, and we've already received plenty of those questions, and we'll hope to get a few more. Now, just a reminder, you can submit those questions through the Q&A function down at the bottom of the screen. You'll also be able to access a recorded version of this after the webinar. And finally, you'll be receiving a survey whereby we'll ask you for your feedback to help us to continue to improve this virtual format and the content that we're creating to help educate, inform, and inspire you guys. So thank you very much for joining us. We will get straight into it. And Tom, I'll hand across to you. Now I'll stop sharing my screen, and while we do that, I'll let Tom jump in. But let me just introduce Tom and the fantastic work that he does at Kincrest. So Kincrest is a real estate development and acquisition organisation based in Melbourne, founded by Tom. Following a career with renowned developers MAB Corporation and BPM, Tom established Kincrest based on an ethos underpinned by quality and longevity. One of Kincrest's early developments is Stanhope by Kincrest, which offers 9 full floor and half floor apartments in South Yarra. Construction funding's now been secured, and I believe you've started on site in the last couple of days, which is an extraordinary achievement in and of itself, considering you're in Melbourne during a lockdown. We're delighted to be able to hear about your journey, Tom, your project Stanhope, and your business Kincrest. I'll hand over to you.
Thanks a lot, Adam, and thanks for the inviting the involvement in this. It's been quite a nice distraction in Melbourne the last couple of weeks, so I appreciate you getting me involved.
Pleasure. So you're in lockdown at the moment. Whereabouts are you based, Tom?
I'm based in South Yarra, offices in Cremorne, so we're in South Yarra. But it is difficult, but it's amazing how quickly you get used to a different lifestyle. So you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the rest of the country is behind you guys in Victoria, and we really hope that these things can sort themselves out in the coming weeks and months. So over to you, Tom.
All right. Yeah. Thanks again. So in this short presentation, next couple of minutes, I'll take you through my personal journey between university and making the jump from being an employee to Kincrest. I'll touch on Kincrest as a business and some of the earlier challenges that I've faced, and then give a quick overview about Stanhope by Kincrest, which is our largest project to date in South Yarra. And I'll wrap up with a few reflections and my experiences that I've had making the journey and the jump. So my journey is, Melbourne born and bred. I graduated from Melbourne Uni with a Bachelor of Urban Planning and Development. I went straight into a couple of years of private practice town planning before going over to London, where I planned to do the expat lifestyle for a couple of years. But unfortunately, the first month I broke my leg and had to come home for surgery, which forced me to make my roots in Melbourne. I went straight into to do a short stint in construction in a Campbellfield third tier builder before really getting into development with MAB Corporation, where I spent 4 years. And I was given great opportunity exposure to residential, commercial and industrial projects at MAB. It was at MAB where I learned that, I loved residential development. I love the emotion that residential development drawed upon from purchasers, designers, architects and developers. And that's what really drew me to Resi. And whilst I was at MAB, the GFC hit, which was another challenging time, but it was early on in my career, and I was really fortunate to be at a company like MAB, which had amazing processes and procedures and reporting guidelines that helped me really learn that base of the pyramid, which I see as the best possible training you can get in development. Lucky enough to learn from guys like Andrew Buxton and David Alt-Graham, who are the head of residential at MAB, and I really look fondly on that time I spent there. Whilst I was at MAB, I did 2 smaller developments of my own in Point Cook and Keysborough before having my final job as an employee with Jonathan Hallinan at BPM. I started as development manager at BPM and wrapped up after spending 4 years as development director, delivering Shadow Play, which is 470 apartments and a $91 million fund through for BPM's hotel in the city. In my final 18 months at BPM, Jonathan encouraged me to undertake a smaller development of my own on the side, which, is very rare. It was 5 townhouses in Northcote, and for a boss to give you that opportunity, it made my transition, making the jump from being an employee to full-time at Kincrest, possible, and, forever grateful for that opportunity. It also gave me a safety net, knowing that I had 12 months to make it work. And that was enough time to find a few acquisitions, set up some funding and get permits to de-risk the first couple of months and years of running your own development company. But I think my journey and the experience I gained from my journey from 2 very different organisations, with MAB, a big, almost corporate, has a board organisation, and then BPM with Jonathan, aggressive developer, challenging all sorts of things in the industry to create a market edge. It was a great opportunity in both companies, and I draw upon that experience every single day. And I don't think I would have survived the first 24 months of Kincrest without that experience. So I think that's a massive part of making the jump, is that platform that you get of experience as being an employee. As Adam mentioned before, Kincrest is a real estate development and acquisition organisation, pushing the design boundaries to create world-leading residential, hospitality and mixed-use projects in Melbourne's inner suburbs. The meaning of Kincrest is family, kin, as in your next of kin, and crest is strength, your family crest. And, family has a lot of meaning to me, be it your direct family or your friendship family or the family of your business. And I wanted a business name to have meaning to me, and I feel like having that as the forefront of what you represent does help you day to day and lead the way for you. Needless to say, I still dealt with the cliche pressures of starting up your own business, cash flow, workload, and decision making and direction. However, I think, if you have to be specific about property development, funding, pre-sales, and planning permits probably cause you the most angst and restless nights. I think with property development, there's a long time between drinks, and the wins don't come that frequently. So at the start of Kincrest, after making the jump, it was just a lot of hard work and a lot of the grind. And like Adam touched on before, only just starting construction for Stanhope. So I think we're still in for a lot of the grind for the next 14, 15 months before seeing the first wins on the table. So I think it's important to be under no illusions that it takes a long time to get success in property. And, Kincrest has built a good platform, and we're obviously endeavouring to aim for that success, but by no means have we proved ourselves in that market just yet. I think every decision and every direction you go in throughout the day is your choice after making the jump. And I don't know if you overcome that challenge, but it's certainly something that you get used to, and you learn how to trust yourself and your instinct, and you gain confidence in yourself and your decision making in terms of making that jump. That was probably one of the biggest things and hurdles that you really need to back yourself. And there's nowhere to hide. Every decision's yours. You can't hide behind your boss or another employee or whatnot. It's all on you. Currently, Kincrest has Stanhope, number 1 Stanhope Court, which is 80% sold, construction commencing. We've got a project in Essendon in town planning designed by Rothy Lohman, which will be about 65 apartments, subject to the outcome. And the plan for moving forward is once we're topped out with the structure, we'll be looking for the next acquisition in a suburbs. And we'd really like to create a brand and name in the inner south, rolling off the back of Stanhope, that we're a brand that people want to be involved in, sort of South Yarra, and that's the aim. So it sort of brings me into Stanhope, our project, which is designed by Teller Clark, a great architectural firm based in South Yarra. The discussion brief we talked about before putting pen to paper was that this is a prominent site. It's 9 apartments ranging from $1.6 to $6 million. And we wanted to make sure we put something on this site that would last the test of time and turn heads. And I think that Tim and Stuart from Taylor Clark have achieved that as an outcome. They've taken inspiration from the local area. A couple of doors down from this property is the Stonington Library, and the pressed metal fins that run vertically here, and the fluted glass and the exposed slab edge do start to really bring in South Yarra, and floor to ceiling glazing, 3 metre ceiling clearances, and the architecture of this building, I think, ticks a lot of the boxes, and I haven't had any feedback that has not been positive on this to date, which is a really good reward for putting something like this out to the market. So it wasn't just the architecture externally we were focused on. Melbourne, which is the market we're focused in, is a very sophisticated architectural and interior design market, and purchasers know what they want and they know what they're looking for. Kincrest wanted to create something that was delivering that quality, but also delivering a point of difference. So a couple of years ago, we did an architecture tour in Stockholm and Copenhagen, and we met with an interior designer, Lotta, who did all the interiors of Stanhope. And maybe we didn't know exactly how good she was, because a year later, she actually won the European Interior Designer of the Year award and was featured in the New York Times. So we lucked out a bit there, but I think Lotta and her team have really achieved what we wanted, and it's a point of difference, but simple and beautiful and elegant with the materials and the design that we put together, and it's exactly what Kincrest is about. One thing that we're really strong on in apartments is that we want to portray a product which is a home or a dwelling that isn't reviewed as a per square metre rate home. It's something that you can get the feel when you look at it, and if it's off the plan or you walk through it once it's complete, like you would with an established dwelling. Immediately when you step in, you have a feeling of that emotion, which I touched on earlier, and that is what drives the value of this product. It's not just per square metre, what am I going to pay because something up the road is that. We want a point of difference. And like when you're standing at an auction and you're going to put another bid in, you don't have your calculator there talking about, oh, I'm going to go over a per square metre rate here. I'm going to put the bid in because I really want this property. And that's what we're trying to achieve and create a brand that delivers upon that. Again, just some examples of Stanhope and the quality. It's simple, and the design and the elegance that we're looking at. And we spent a lot of time with a lighting specialist, Adrian Pizzi, on this, because we see lighting as a massive part of interior design. God can often be forgotten about, but it's not just downlights, it's feature lights, lights shining up artwork, and LEDs on sensors. So when you walk into the bathroom or you walk in robe at night, these LEDs come on and they don't wake you up. Now we think about small little things like where your dishwashers go and where the dishes get put in, so you're not walking around the corner, and making life simple for people that buy into these apartments. I wanted to put this slide in as well. This is one Stanhope Court prior to getting a planning permit, prior to getting finance or anything. We demolished the site, the house which was sitting on here, and we built a park. And we created a sculpture park with these sculptures you can see here. And it was really a bit of a give back to the community, whilst being a great marketing initiative from the team. It also created a lot of buzz and a lot of talk about what was going on here. The top left there, that's Loris giving a wave, and she was one of the purchasers, and her and her friends and family went and had a barbecue there on Australia Day. And it wasn't uncommon to walk past here prior to lockdown, of course, and people were having a coffee or a glass of wine with a picnic rug. And it was just a little bit about creating that brand awareness for Kincrest and showing that we're not just about putting the biggest monstrosity or whatever we can to maximise the site. We care about the outcome. We care about what will be delivered. So touching on my reflections, and look, I'm very cautious of calling it advice. I think this is just my experience and what I've felt in making the jump. And networking is everything, and having people around you to mentor you and guide you is so important. I was fortunate enough to work with companies like MAB and David Alt-Graham there, who has become a good friend, and he's helped me along the journey a long time. Recently, Anthony Alzane has been instrumental in establishing not just my business, but what my business means and stands for. And of course, Jonathan Hallinan, who I worked with for 5 years. He put me in the best position possible to learn and trusted me with his company, BPM. It was really a sink or swim opportunity, and I don't think many other people would have given me that chance. And I think that was probably one of the biggest factors of making the jump when I did. I found that knowing your path is really important, and being prepared to commit to that. There's so many facets of property development, there's resi, commercial, retail, hospitality, investment, and the oxygen can get quite thin quite quickly if you just jump at the flavour of the month. I think, I did a sale at Stanhope in between lockdown 1 and lockdown 2, so a month ago, and it was just proof that good property in good locations in South Yarra was voted most livable suburb in Victoria and the most livable city of the world. And you still get sales in what is the most challenging market that may be of the last 100 years. So that is very important. You pick your asset correctly, and you got to appreciate the risks. It's not a hobby. Property development is a profession. It's full time, and you got to approach it that way. But there's great flexibility being your own boss. You can pick your team, your consultants, your direction. It can be really rewarding. And some of the consultants I've worked with, like Taylor Clark, have not just delivered great outcomes, but they've become good friends. and that's been a great reward with working with people, and that's what it's about with development. There's so many different facets and so many different people you can work with architects, structural engineers, arborists, geotechnical and interior designers. It's such a massive range, and it's really enjoyable when you have the right people that you choose to work with. And my final point is that it's never a good time to make the jump. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. But there is a really fine balance between having the right amount of experience, but not leaving it too long. And when I made the jump, I had a steady income and secure employment and a great boss, a two-year-old daughter and a pregnant wife on maternity leave. So it was pretty difficult. But if I hadn't have done that, it would have become even harder. Your expenses grow, your kids go to school, and your mortgage gets bigger or whatnot. It just becomes more difficult. So if you got it in your gut and you feel like you are going to make the jump one day, it's pulling the trigger and having the confidence to do so, because it really can be done. So thanks for listening, and that's a wrap for me.
Thank you very much, Tom. That's fantastic, and indeed inspiring in terms of both what you've been able to create, but also where you're going with that. And I think to your point about good property holding up during tough times, there's probably no greater example than a multi-million-dollar sale in the middle of South Yarra between two lockdowns in a pandemic. As you say, it's a 1 in 100-year event. So